Tiffany Colleen. I decided I wanted to do a mini series, so for 7 days I'm going to paint emotions, and I'm going to use children's faces to emote them, I guess. So follow along, and I hope you enjoy it. This is the picture that inspired this entire series. I had stumbled across an image of this small boy that looked just enraged, completely enraged, to the point that I felt he would be engulfed in it. And it inspired me to paint him as if he was on fire and inflamed with this rage. So I decided that I wanted to do a limited palette, and I chose warm tones. So I'm using red as like the dark shadow tone, and orange is the mid-tone, yellow is the lightest tone. And I took my time on this portrait a little bit more, and it ended up turning out a little bit better because of this. And I really did try to not overblend as much. I tend to, when I do portraits, overblend. When it came to the fire, I should have thought it through a little bit more. I just kind of started going for it, and I hadn't even really practiced like how I wanted to like twist the brush to make the little fire bits look more like fire. And while practicing this, while painting this, I ended up covering more of the page than I had intended on. I do think that I, at the end, had some bits that did look more like flames. So if I would do this again, I would intend the flames to not be as wide as they were, and as they will be as you continue to watch this. But it's not something that I'm completely like devastated about. I'm working in my sketchbook. I'm experimenting, and this was an experiment. And I actually do like how the face turned out, so I'm okay that the fire wasn't how I pictured it in my head. Another thing that in hindsight, I really enjoy the eyes white. I had it in my mind to paint them black, and so I did without looking at it really in an artistic way, because it was already in my mind they were going to be black. But while I was editing this film and looking at it, I was like, oh, you know what? It really looks cool with the whites. But it's okay. And I still like it even with the black. I think it does kind of like show that it can darken you if you were completely enraged. Not all the time. Sometimes anger can be a motivation. But anyways, I digress. This was me and my depiction of rage. Do you recognize his face with children if you have any? The following day, I set out sketching the emotion sorrow, and I wanted the character to be in a large body of water. I wanted only the character's head to be above the water, to show that to that character it feels like they're sinking. And when you're in the emotions of despair, grief, depression, sorrow, you do feel like you're sinking, that your head is barely above the water. And I chose blue for the aesthetic because I feel it is the most fitting to me when I think of an emotion that is more of down and that kind of sadness. I do tend to think of blue, and I think a lot of people tend to think of blue. I wanted to, when I did the hair, I wanted it to look as if it was floating around them in the water. I think I ended up making it look a little bit more squid-like. However, you can tell that it is hair. Hair is something that I have struggled in drawing and painting in the past, and so I took my time and I used many layers on this hair. I started with the base layer of just patchy black, and then went over with some darker black lines. And then I went over that with some white to emulate some highlights. However, I did it all over, so I didn't quite have a light source in mind, which I think at the end is why it looks a little bit flat, but it translates to what it is. I then at the end went over with a fine liner, trying to get some more fine strands in there, make it look a little bit more like hair and squid. But that was my depiction of sorrow.
I'm gonna make you jealous. I'm gonna make you jealous, jealous. I'm gonna make you jealous. I'm gonna make you jealous, jealous. I'm gonna make you jealous. I'm gonna make you jealous, jealous. I'm gonna make you jealous. I'm gonna make you jealous. I'm gonna make you jealous, jealous. I'm gonna make you jealous. I'm gonna make you jealous, jealous. I'm gonna make you jealous. I'm gonna make you jealous, jealous. I'm gonna make you jealous. I'm gonna make you jealous, 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 I'm gonna make you jealous, 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 I'm gonna make you jealous, 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 I'm gonna make you jealous, 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 jealous,
After 3 days of very deep emotions, I felt it was about time I do a more positive, uplifting, or happier emotion. I wanted this character to be silly. I wanted them to make a silly face. I wanted them to represent the mood we sometimes get in, where either we're being silly with our friends, or maybe we're being creative in the way that we're thinking and silly in our mind. Your head is basically in the clouds. I tried my best to not overblend this one as well, and I think I did a pretty good job in the way that I painted it. And when I got to the cloud part, because like I said, I wanted their head to be like in the clouds, like they're very daydreamy, very silly, you're in just that weird headspace. But anyways, I usually struggle a lot with clouds, and I tried a different technique this time. Instead of trying to paint like I was using oil, I did continue to paint like I was using watercolor or gouache, which I was, and it helped. It helped to try something different instead of repeating the same over and over. When it got to the eyelashes, I did get a little frustrated with the thickness. The paintbrush that I am using here is on its last limb, and it was having a hard time doing those small details. I did a little touch of a moon in a different color at the end, even though I was trying to do all these monochrome. I like the way that it just kind of pops and adds a little bit more depth to it. But yes, this was my playful, silly emotion day. The following day, I continued with the positive emotions and drew this very joyful baby. To me, there is nothing more joyful than the sound of a baby's giggle or laugh, because they find everything so innocently funny and they ooze happiness and just want to squish them. I thought that yellow, to me, is the most cheerful color, so I tried to keep the tones in a yellow, maybe a little bit of orange. At the end, I do usually even a little bit of burgundy, but mainly yellow tones to emulate this emotion. I wanted the baby to almost look like it's a ball of sunshine. However, I didn't want to draw the baby as if they were the sun, because I felt that would be too similar to the Teletubbies. And instead, I wanted to turn this baby into a flower, maybe like a sunflower. It's not exactly a sunflower, but it's similar enough. I started by doing a base layer of yellow and then went around with a slightly darker shade of yellow for the midtones, and I did those as like the first shadow. I did a little line shadows first and then went and kind of just went in a circle around this baby's head to do the mid-tone shadows. And I would do them to push certain petals backwards, bring certain petals more forwards by doing this. And then I chose yet a little bit darker one. This is kind of the color that to me looks a little bit more of a burgundy. And I went and did like right next to the midtones to try to pop these petals out a little bit more. I continued to outline each of these flowers with this burgundy, and that helped the petals to finally come together in the end. I actually really enjoyed using this darker color, and I feel without it, the baby would have gotten lost in the petals. But this is how I decided to represent joy. Oh, I forgot. To me, the petals at the end, when I added the spots, I really enjoyed the spots, but they also, to me, almost look like little banana peels, which makes me smile, and I hope it makes you smile too. Okay, so this day. This day, I had such art block. I sat and stared at a blank canvas for so long, thinking of different ways that I could represent fear, and I became so afraid that I was going to mess it up that I got so far into my head that it wasn't as enjoyable. And I think it kind of comes across in this piece. That like the proportions were a little bit off. I was so in my head that I didn't really enjoy the process this day. I don't know why I struggled so much this day, but to me, I can see it in my artwork. I don't necessarily hate this piece. I do really like the concept behind it, that you're kind of frozen in fear. There's like 3 ways that you respond to fear: fight, flight, or freeze. I tend to freeze, which has gotten me in situations before that were very uncomfortable. And I've also flee away. I'm not a fighter as much as I am a fleer. I run or I freeze. And so I do like this concept here where I'm frozen in fear. However, I didn't enjoy that day as much. It was kind of a sad thing that I didn't enjoy painting that day. And it was just one of those weird moods that I wanted to create, but things weren't going exactly how I wanted in my mind. Not that they were going bad. It just was one of those days. I feel it did fit, however, that it happened on the day for fear, that I was so afraid in my head of messing up that I kind of messed up. They're not really messed up is necessarily, but it wasn't, like I said before, as enjoyable as the other days. But yeah, this was for Afraid. The 7th and final emotion that I decided I wanted to draw was overwhelmed. I'm sure we all have felt this feeling at one time or another in our lives, as we are human, and being overwhelmed is part of the human existence. So I wanted to represent that feeling when you feel you can't take any more. You are full to the brim. You need to blow off steam. You are so overwhelmed that you're about to blow your lid. I guess metaphorically speaking, and I'm making it literal in this painting. I enjoyed this painting so much more than the day before. The only thing that I struggled here was deciding where I wanted the lid placement to be, where I wanted it to open, where the liquid would be going in, if this was in fact a tea kettle. And I finally decided near the top would make the most logical sense instead of it cutting across the center of the head. I also felt much more at ease painting this one, as I've done metal painting techniques before or recently, and so I knew what I was going into painting it. I had a plan more in motion. I did feel much more confident with this one. I didn't quite feel the emotion overwhelmed as I did the day before. I think this piece is probably my favorite piece out of all of them. I really enjoyed the concept. I really enjoyed the process. And I also enjoy their representation. I hope that you guys enjoy it as well. But this was my representation for Overwhelmed. Hi, I've redone my room since I did the opening. I'll show you guys maybe in a different video, but I wanted to pop in before it ended and to say thank you for watching my journey as I painted emotions for 7 days. I really did have fun doing this little mini series, and I think it would be beneficial for me to do more mini series in the future to get me prepped and ready for Inktober, for example, as well as to just produce more ideas that I might not have thought about otherwise. Thank you again for watching. Leave in the comments below which was your favorite emotion. I do have stickers and merchandise already available for the little sun baby for Happy. If you are interested in merchandise for another one, let me know, and I will see you next video. Thanks, guys.